Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So shall I proceed?
Yes, sir. Please,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Once again, I start with thanks for the organizers, and this presentation will be about the power quality issues, especially disconnected RE sources. Even though it is regarding RE sources, but my main discussion presentation will be on wind energy generators. Because in India we have a lot of experience in integrating wind energy, and we have faced a lot of, from the utility side, we have faced a lot of issues in power quality issues from the wind energy generators, and generators also face a lot of issues from the grid. Both are to be addressed. Also, there are a number of issues. As faculty, you can appreciate that these issues are still to be resolved, and you have a lot of opportunity work on each and every issue that I am presenting. So, as this is the first session regarding power quality, just to refresh regarding the power quality basics. So, any problem in electric power system manifested in voltage, current, or frequency that results in unsatisfactory operation or failure of electrical equipments is defined as power quality. And as a service person at the field, I can tell you that we face a lot of issues like this in the actual scenario. So there are a lot of issues like transient, sag, swell, noise, notches, under voltage, over voltage, voltage distortions. Of late, a lot of voltage distortion due to use of uh, power converters, and the tangents, a lot of variations in transients. So basically, that can be grouped into two. Due to disturbances, that is transients, mainly due to switching and lightning, faults that resulting in voltage sag, swell, oscillatory or impulse waveforms, short-term interruptions. So there are some steady-state variations like use of nonlinear load. We end up in harmonics, notching, and noise, which is a steady state. It is repetitive. In each and every cycle, you see that same type of issues are cropping in. So basically, these are all the issues that is faced in the grid or equipment or generator: sag, swell, lower voltage, under voltage, interruptions, flicker, and harmonics. So this is as per IEEE, this classification you would have. I'm not elaborating more on that. So typically, grouping into 5 category. Voltage sags mainly due to faults. That's also mainly from the grid. Then certain amount of issues which have a large uh, institutions where they have a large motors and starting of large loads that create voltage sag within that premises mostly. So consequences: accelerator aging, loss of data, stability issues, then process interruption. Process interruption is a major issue in any manufacturing industry. I have not taken some samples here for presentation, but I can tell you that due to sag, one small minute sag normally sag is, I'll show you the definition of sag. A small sag will cause an interruption of process and production to the tune of nearly half an hour to 1 hour. So that is a huge production loss and productivity loss and product loss also. So any capacitor switching, for that matter, is a disturbance. But we use a lot of power factor correction capacitors in grid side also, in the load side also. Any switching that is creating a nuisance, and it creates transients, and it is not required for the system. Then major consequence is installation failure, installation breakdown, premature aging, a lot of issues is take place due to transients. Then harmonics, everybody would have been very familiar with harmonics as per today, because number of utilities have started limiting the harmonics generations by the consumers or by the generators. So major causes everybody knows that power electronic equipment and transformer saturations and of course all power converters. So major consequences: equipment overheating, high voltage, protective devices, small operations. Then lightning transients, we may not be able to prevent it, but we have to anyway manage it. Insulation breakdowns, sparkovers, semiconductor device damage, a lot of things. Then another more important thing is that high impedance faults. You would have noticed from the newspapers that on a rainy day, number of wires get snapped and people get hurt, people get electrocuted. A lot of things happens due to this high impedance faults. Everybody is working how to manage this, how to prevent this, how to safeguard the life from this kind of faults. So fire threat, personal safety, a lot of things depends on this high impedance faults. So to summarize the power quality issues, you can see that voltage swell is there, transient is there, interruption is there, but more than that, voltage sag contributes a major area of power quality issues that is quantified finally towards the money value also. Voltage sag is more predominant and unwanted thing in the system. So first we'll see what is actually the voltage sag. It's actually defined as a short duration, maybe decrease in magnitude of the waveform for a certain period of time. This causes accelerated aging, loss of data, stability, process interruptions. A lot of things goes wrong when this kind of voltage sag is present. You can see that this is a waveform, and during certain cycles, this waveform gets reduced and automatically resumes to the original magnitude. This may be to the tune of nearly from 10 to 90%. It is defined by two parameters. One is magnitude and another is duration. How many cycles it is going to remain. Almost all power electronic equipments, power electronic loads, variable frequency drives, even RE generators for that matter, RE generators are very sensitive for this kind of voltage sag. Its impact on the industrial consumer is 7 to 8 times more than the outages. So voltage sag is more vulnerable for any sensitive production industry, especially like manufacturers like who manufactures glass and pharmaceuticals, automobile components. A lot of sensitive productions get affected due to this voltage sag. So how does the voltage sag is cast in the system? This is actually a typical layout of a substation, a 33 bar 11 kV substation. Incomer is 33 and 11 kV is the feeders feeding the loads. Incomer, you can see there are two incomers. Ultimately, it is there is a 33 kV bus and one transformer that is feeding the 11 kV bus. You can see that in the 11 kV bus, 5 feeders are connected. For example, there is a earth fault in one feeder. Normally, these feeders will be catering nearly 200 to 300 amps normal loading of the feeders, 11 kV feeders. When such a earth fault occurs, normally there are typical faults like phase to earth fault, phase to phase fault, 3-phase short circuits, 2-phase short circuits. But predominantly, by statistics, you can say that more than 75% of the fault in the system is earth fault. Mostly due to fouling of the trees, tree fouling. Tree fouling makes nearly 50% contribution to the faults. Then any insulator failures, disk failures, equipment failures. Those things cause nearly phase to earth fault. But mostly it is uh, tree fouling faults. Maybe 50% of the faults are passing faults. Maybe in one or two trippings, the tree branch will cut away or burn away, and after that, subsequently, the feeders will be healthy. But that is nearly contributed to nearly 40 to 50% by statistics. But when the fault occurs, you can imagine that the fault current will be in the order of nearly 2000 to 3000 amps flowing towards the fault location from the grid. That means from 33 kV through the transformer, through the bus, that fault current flows through the to the fault location. During the fault location, but whenever the fault occurs, the current transformer in the breaker, the fault current will be flowing through that, and it will give the extra that current sense to the relay, and the overcurrent relay and the earth fault relay that is fixed in the breaker will actuate the breaker tripping. But that takes nearly 200 to 300 milliseconds. During that 200 300 milliseconds, the fault current will be flowing through the 33 kV bus, the 11 kV bus to the fault location. So during that condition, during those 300 milliseconds, these healthy feeders will see a low voltage conditions. That is actually called the voltage sag. No, why not changing? Slide is not changing. Let's stop and reset.
Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
The slide is not changing, but let me try this.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's coming, sir.
Yeah. So this is actually during those 200 milliseconds. These healthy feeders will see a low voltage condition for 200 to 300 milliseconds. So this is actually the voltage sag, and the equipments connected in these all these feeders will react to this condition, and mostly variable frequency drives will get tripped. You can see that in some 10 to 20 years back. For example, in a textile mill, everybody will be using induction motors, sturdy induction motors. But nowadays, for the requirement of variable frequency, variable speeds, then for automation, people go for, and also for energy efficiency, people go for variable frequency drives. But in these voltage sag conditions, these variable frequency drives will get restarted or tripped. To overcome those these small time conditions, people manufacturers fix a fault ride through facility. They enable a fault ride through facility in the variable frequency drives. That means even if the voltage drops by 40 to 50% for a certain period of time, the drives doesn't trip and hold on to the machine process, and whenever the voltage resumes back, it will go on to the normal operations. But it is limited to certain period of time. It depends upon the manufacturer to manufacturer how much time they have that facility. Because if you increase the timing, the cost of the fault right through facility will increase, and people will have to match the cost and the requirement. So that is the kind of power quality. You can see the waveform. This is the actual waveform that has been recorded in one such scenario. You can see the how the voltage gets reduced for the certain cycles. These are all some typical waveforms that has been recorded in those facilities. You can see that this is the voltage waveform all recorded in the such a scenario. But this is a voltage sag. This is in a textile mill that has been recorded. You can see that we have fixed monitors to continuously monitor the voltage, and you can see that suddenly there is a voltage sag, and the voltage reduces by nearly 30 to 40%. During those times, this is actually a current trend that has been recorded continuously, the same monitor. You can see that at that position, nearly 38% of the variable frequency drives are tripped, and it takes nearly half an hour to 1 hour to regain to the original production level. So it is actually the alarming situation that a small voltage sag of nearly 200 milliseconds has caused the industry to lose production for more than 1 hour. So this is typically a similar condition. You can see that a similar loss of production has happened due to voltage sag. This is actually to show the case study of how the windmills react to this condition. So you can see that in this trend that has been recorded in a substation where predominantly windmills have been connected in Tamil Nadu. You can see that one such event has been recorded, and the voltage drops by nearly 50% at a given moment. You can see that during that moment, nearly 50% of the windmills have tripped. This is a windmill generation graph trend. More than 50% of the windmills have tripped here at the same moment. And before that, you can see that there is a current variation of nearly 268% from the windmills that has been pumped to the grid. Sudden transient current that is pumped into the grid. So these are all some unwanted events that is occurring in the grid. You can see that there is a similar type of event. More than 50% of the voltage have dropped. And you can see that the windmill, 40% of the windmills have tripped. And it takes nearly half an hour to 1 hour to regain to the original generation level by the windmills. That means windmills have tripped, and manually persons have to go to each and every windmill site, and they have to bring back the generation to the original generation levels. But immediately prior to the tripping, you can see that there is a large amount of current that has been pumped in, which is both dangerous to the grid and also to the generator. Anyway, it has to be avoided. To overcome these kind of issues, of late, after 2014, there is a grid code amendment, and all the windmills that is being fixed after 2014 are to be required with the LVRT facility, low voltage right through facility. The windmills should not trip under this condition and should hold on to the grid and start producing the required power whenever the voltage resumes to the original levels. But there are some older windmills. From the 1980s, we have started fixing windmills in India, and especially in Tamil Nadu. Nearly 5,000 to 6,000 megawatts of windmills are there without LVRT facilities, where people are thinking whether it can be retrofitted with the LVRT facility to see that they also don't trip. Otherwise, if some incident happens in the grid, nearly 4,000 to 5,000 megawatts of windmills will get away from the grid, and it may cause a huge damage to the grid. When now we are focusing a lot on renewable energy generations, mix of renewable energy generation is going to increase day by day, and these kind of issues are to be well addressed. Otherwise, in tomorrow's scenario, when we have more than 50 to 60% of renewable energy generators, this kind of voltage sags and these kind of issues will have a major impact on the grid operations. So this has to be anyway solved. And now people have come out with the LVRT facility, but we have to see whether these kind of LVRT facility will be fully operational, fully protective for the grid and for the generators. So this is actually a case study of transient. Mostly capacitor banks and capacitor switched capacitors are used in the renewable energy generators also for making good the reactive power requirement. Generally, if you can see the windmills, most of the windmills, nearly 80% of the windmills, especially in Tamil Nadu, are induction generators. Induction generators are typically, they draw reactive power from the grid and supply the active power. So of late when the larger quantum of windmills got added to the grid, then the regulators and the grid operators insisted on having capacitor banks at their site so that they don't draw reactive power from the grid. So they have started penalizing the generators and consumers for drawing the reactive power to more than a certain extent. And that led to the consumers and also the generators to fix the capacitor banks at their facility to see that they don't draw the reactive power. In the facility, in the utility also, in substations, to make good certain amount of reactive power, they have also erected capacitor banks. So these capacitor banks are switched according to the requirement, and each and every switching of capacitor banks will cause a transient. You can see that voltage transients, whenever the capacitor bank is switched on, is very sharp, and it leads to voltage transients. These kind of transients, repetitive transients, that is impacting this transient was recorded in a customer facility which was 2 kilometers away from the substation. So that is a kind of a transient that can impact on the consumer when the capacitor banks are switched at the substation. So repetitive transient like this in impacting the customer installations, transformer bushings, transformer installations, motor installations, all these installations will get prematurely aged, and one day it may fail, and one of the severe transients impact on that. So transient is very important, maneuvered and managed. So this is a transient. You can see each and every time when you switch on the transformer and switch off the transformer, there is a transient. The transient may travel up to the end consumer. So this is actually recorded in the customer facility when the transformer is switched on and off also. You can see that whenever the transformer is switched off, the quantum of transient is more than the quantum of transient that is occurring during switching. This transient is during switching on, this transient is during switching of transformer off. You can see the quantum of transient that is occurring when the transformer is switched off. So this is the transient you can see when the transformer is switched on and off, quantum of transients that is occurring. It is more dangerous to the equipment, and at one time the installations and equipments will get failed. So this is a graph which shows the inrush current. Inrush current. Whenever the transformer or heavy motors are energized, you will see that inrush current is there for a few cycles. Large amount of current is drawn by the transformer when it is charged. So that consequently, that also impacts on the voltage. You can see that whenever a transformer is charged or equipment charged, there is a voltage sag on the voltage sag experienced by the nearby customers also, nearby loads also. which is not required, or it may damage the neighboring equipments also. So inrush current has also to be managed or curtailed. For all those things, for transients and inrush currents limitations, nowadays we have uh, zero voltage switchings, or zero crossing switchings are there available. So people can adopt to zero crossing switchings and avoid these kind of transients and limit the inrush currents. This is another sample we can show the happening of notching. Nowadays people use power converters, 3-pole converters, 6-pole converters, 12-pole converters. People use converters for AC/DC conversions and other applications. But these kind of notchings are there if the design of the equipment or circuit board is not proper. You can end up in voltage notches, which is not appreciable, which is disturbing nature, and it may end up in other failure of equipments also. So even certain notches may lead to multiple zero crossings, extra zero crossings. All our electronic equipments, electronic boards, electronic components have been designed for zero crossings. Like if it is 50 cycles, it is a 2 zero crossing within a cycle. But if not, these kind of notches is there, which may end up increasing zero crossings, will malfunction the equipments and malfunction the relays, and will end up in maloperations. So this is another effect which can show that whenever the generation increases, there is a drop in bus voltage, system voltage. So this has to also to be managed whenever there is an increased generation from the windmills. There is a great amount of reactive power drawn from the grid. So now the people are actually thinking of how to manage this. But of late, grid code, there is an amendment in the grid code, and now the grid code has been amended and it is in place, and it requires that capacitor banks need not be switched according to the load or according to the reactive power drawal or pumping. It has to be switched on and off as per the voltage levels. If it is voltage is more than 103% of the system voltage, the people should not pump in reactive power. And if the system voltage is less than 97%, people should not draw the reactive power. That is this is the kind of new grid code requirements by the consumer and the generator, and it capacity reactive power switch off and switch on now depends on the system voltage, not on the reactive power requirements. So after these kind of studies, they have amended the grid code to the exact requirements. So this is actually the scenario in southern region. In these dates, you can see that these amounts of windmills have tripped due to voltage sag. You can see that in one incident, nearly more than 1,000 megawatts of windmills have tripped. So in tomorrow's scenario, this was when Tamil Nadu had nearly 6,000 megawatts. Of 6,000 megawatts, nearly 1,000 megawatts have tripped. Now, in today's scenario, it is 8,500 megawatts, and in tomorrow's scenario, it will be 13,000 megawatts. So, voltage sag condition has to be prevented, or at all, if it occurs, it has to be managed well. These kind of incidents cannot be permitted to the safety of the grid. To understand the type of windmills, there are nearly 4 or 5 types of windmills. These are all the original old type of windmills, which has a squirrel cage directly connected to the grid, through the transformer. But of late, capacitors were insisted and switched capacitors were erected before the transformer to see that the windmills doesn't draw reactive power from the grid. This is a simple and low cost, robust, compact size, low energy conversion, no control on active and reactive power. But as on today, I will tell you the what is the latest positions. Then there will be large power fluctuations whenever there is a wind. It will pump in the power. When there is no wind, it will actually this induction generator will start functioning as a motor also. So initially, all the induction generator starts as a motor, and then it converts into generator. This is type 2 when variable wound rotor machines came in. Yes, where there are improved energy conversion was there, but limited speed range, poor control on active and reactive. And these machines also were fitted with capacitor banks, and it doesn't even this machine doesn't have LVRT facility. Type 2 machines also doesn't have the LVRT facilities. Then came the type 3 machines, that is commonly called as a DFIG, double fed induction generators. Even rotor contributed to the energy conversion. Nearly 15 to 20% of the energy would be supplied by the rotor also, where there was a limited control on the active and reactive power. So in these machines, LVRT capability was there. Most of the machines supplied after 2014 was this type of machines, and there were improved power quality was there in these type of machines. And now we have a fully convertible type 4 machines, which is having a AC, DC, AC machines, fully convertible. Reactive power can be controlled, active power can be controlled, fully LVRT capability, and it was more expensive, but of late people prefer these kind of machines for grid requirement and also for better controls. But future trend shaping is that increasing wind penetration above 20% results in increasing amounts of wind dumping out. Also, more wind power is connected to weak grids. That's another issue that is, I'm not discussing that issue. Then most of the windmills, because it has been connected in the distribution system originally in 1980s. Nowadays, they have a separate substations. Even today, 230 by 30 kV, 30 kV substations are there. But originally, it used to be connected with 33 by 11 kV, 110 by 11 kV. In the rural loads, in the existing feeders, those were the kind of installations that happened during 1980s. That was weak grid. So there were additional issues encountered there. Voltage fluctuations, increased voltage, low voltages, sustained low voltages. All those issues were there when the windmills were connected in the weak grids. These future windmills will have active and reactive power control, LVRT ability, voltage support during the grid faults. During the grid fault, the voltage drops by 50 to 60%. During those conditions, these kind of windmills will support the voltage also, better power quality, almost harmonics are within the harmonics, voltage fluctuation flickers are within the limits. Then apart from that, there is another phenomena that is very much required from the windmills, which is forecasting. Because in tomorrow's scenario, if forecasting is not there, grid operators may feel very difficult to operate the grid. For example, in Tamil Nadu, we have today's power consumption nearly 13,000 megawatts. Of 13,000 megawatts, if the windmills contribute nearly 4,000 megawatts, and solar contribute nearly 2,000 megawatts. Nearly 50% of the power comes from the renewable sources. In that scenario, if the power is not forecasted well, because tomorrow's requirement, everybody has to forecast today. If that is not forecasted well, grid operators will see suddenly some change in generation. One can happen that sudden drop in generation can be there if some sudden cloud passing is there, sudden wind change is there. There is a drop in generation, or also vice versa, it can be increased generation. Both the things are not permitted because Tamil Nadu's variation is allowed for only 250 megawatts in the national grid. So if it is violates that, it may end up in paying the penalty, or it may end up in losing the generation from the central quotas also. So power predictions, predictions and power forecasting, especially from renewable energy sources, is required by the system operators, and in tomorrow's scenario, it will be compulsory. So in these kind of wind farms and new windmills, predictable productions, even it may end up in using as ancillary services. In ancillary services is another phenomena in the power system, because I'm not elaborating more on that, because ancillary services is services from the generators required to be in standalone standing mode and supply power whenever it is asked for. So normally they will not be supplying power. Only whenever the grid operators ask for to supply due to sudden change in generation, sudden change in loads, if the grid operators feel that some extra amount of generation is required, they go for the ancillary services. Now in India, for the past 1 year, ancillary services is in operation, and in future, these ancillary services is in for active power. In future, ancillary services for reactive power also will be possible. So reactive power also will be in a standby mode and supply reactive power whenever the grid requires. That kind condition also will be there. But for your information, I can tell you that all the solar generators, solar inverters, even the windmill fully convertible machines can supply reactive power when there is no generation also, especially from the solar generators. That phenomena is called Q at night. The inverters can be made into operative mode during the night when there is no generation and supply only reactive power to the grid whenever they require, when they require, when they ask for. So that is a kind of ancillary services to be inoperative from the renewable energy sources in tomorrow's scenario. So this is the Indian grid code requirement of after 2014. All the windmills should be fixed with the LVRT facility. But as on today, in Tamil Nadu, you can see that only 16% of the windmill population is fixed, is enabled with LVRT, and others doesn't have the facility, or it has to be decided whether that can be retrofitted. Somebody can study on that in the old windmills whether those windmills are capable of retrofitting with the LVRT facility. So this is LVRT requirement. Whenever the voltage drops within this region, the windmills should be operating mode and regain to the original production level. So international requirement is there for windmills not cutting off during the fault period of the power system. The active power shall rapidly recover after the fault clearance. Most of the other countries have the LVRT phenomena, but only for the new windmills. This is actually a IEEE requirement of harmonics. Yes, we have come to the harmonic level, and this is the first slab is meant for RE generators. All these slabs are meant for typically all the 5 slabs are meant for loads, but especially for the RE generators, first slab is typically applicable. That means their TST levels and TD levels should be as per the first slab. But as in India, Central Electric Authority has amended their regulations, and they have asked to follow IEEE 519, and the state regulatory commissions have to regulate their measurement methodology and apply these regulations. As on today, none of the states in India have enacted the regulations, harmonic regulations for renewable energy generators, and we can see we can assume that some of the states like Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, other states may come up with the regulation in near future for regulating the harmonics. That will be another phenomena that should be encountered. This is actually a case studies of various types of windmills. I have not named the windmills for obvious reasons. We have made a small study how the harmonics actually uh, drawn or supplied by the generator during the course of operations. This is a case study 1 and case study 2, and there are number of windmills which during the normal operation doesn't contribute much of harmonics, but during low wind period and low generation period, they contribute significant harmonics. But as on today, the utility has not devised a methodology how to measure and when to measure and what is the duration of measurement. All those things have to be actually they have to finalize it. You can see that on most of the windmills during the full operation, they contribute very less harmonics, and during low generation, they contribute significant amount of harmonics. But certain windmills are completely within the limits and only violate certain. You can see that these windmills are completely within the limits, even during high generation, low generations. So these are all within the limits. But this particular windmill, you can see that violates even during the generation, but during the low generation, completely violates the norms. Yeah. So now we are coming to the end of this session, and the people are at liberty to pose their questions, and I'll try to answer you whatever the question is that.
Morning, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, I'm able to.
Fine. It was a nice presentation. My question is, so we are going on installing too much of solar power in all the states. Just now a new plant was installed in Riva, which was the biggest in Asia and all these things. But my question is, will that variation will not affect the grid stability if a cloud passes above a 750 megawatt plant? And as you said, it is only 250 megawatt for which the tolerance level has been given. So if a cloud passes above 750 megawatt, will not that cross the tolerance limit, sir?
Yes, that may end up in variation, but now that new regulation has come in, people have to forecast their generations. All the generating plants have to forecast a day ahead. Tomorrow's generation I have to forecast today, and I should give that forecast to the grid operators. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock I will be generating 350 megawatts. At 12:15 I will be generating 300 megawatts. Like that, a forecasting has to be given for every 15 minutes slot. If people find that there is could be a variation, maybe at the nearer the time, they can also revise the schedule, revise the forecast within 1.5 hours, and tell you that, see, my generation I have forecasted 350 megawatts yesterday, but I am going to revise it to 250 megawatts. So immediately within that 1.5 hours, people will reschedule their requirements, and the extra power required or extra power that has to be rescheduled will take place within that short time. As on today, that is manageable because we have less RE power and we have enough thermal power or hydel power which could be ramped up or ramped down for the existing conditions. Maybe your question will be valid for 5 years down the line when more RE power is going to come in, more conventional power will be shut down or taken away from the grid or retired from the grid. What will be the condition? During 5 to 10 years down the line, everybody assumes that there will be enough amount of energy storage that will be playing a very big role in the power system. So, technically, number of countries have proved that energy grid connected energy storage could be possible. You would have seen that in Australia they have 100 megawatts of energy storage, grid connected energy storage. In other European countries and America, they have a larger size of energy storage. But in India also, we have few energy megawatt size energy storage in our grid. But as on today, that may be technically possible. But future, in India also, it will be economically viable to have larger size energy storage. But as on today, we have idle pumped storage systems is there to quickly ramp up and ramp down the requirements. And the thermal operations are there, which can also ramp up and ramp down to a certain extent. So in today's scenario, that is manageable. In tomorrow's scenario, people are working how best it can be managed.
Thank you, sir.
So one question is there in the chat box. If mitigate the voltage sag by using dynamic voltage restorer, what is the design of dynamic voltage restorer? Which formula is used for mathematical design of DVR? Yes, a DVR has been designed. DVR is there in the market. Imported DVRs are there, but I was associated with one design of DVR along with a central sponsored program, which we designed a DVR for a small capacity DVR for a textile mill. So that can be designed, but the formula and other things I can, if you can send me mail, I can share it with that. But in India, we have already designed an indigenous DVR. Any more questions you can be?
So the question asked by Vaishnavi Devi, how much solar energy is helpful for generating reactive power?
How much?
Solar energy is helpful for generating reactive power.
No, I don't catch your question. What is the information you require? How much solar power is used to generate reactive power?
Yes, sir. She asked, sir.
How much of solar power is required? Maybe we are not experienced in that angle in the real operation sense. Maybe 15 to 20% of reactive power should be compromised for getting the reactive power. Here I get another question in the chat box, where I get power quality report state-wise on India. Not much of report is there. One such report is there in National Institute of Wind Energy, which actually I was part of the study, which actually RMK Engineering College was also associated with that. That report is available in National Institute of Wind Energy website. Then what is the maximum power generation capacity for microgrid? It is according to the design. What is the design you do? It is possible. There can't be any limitation to that. Present power system losses in India, as Madam has mentioned in the inaugural speech, it should be anywhere between 25 to 30%. It is available in Central Electric Authority website report, annual report. You can go through, and state-wise losses are mentioned in that. Central Electric Authority annual report. Currently, is there any microgrid in Tamil Nadu? There are number of microgrids available, especially in rural areas and very rural areas, hilly areas, where grid connectivity is not possible or grid connectivity is too expensive. There are some operative microgrids are there. So how to limit odd or even harmonics from wind generation? From wind generation, normally wind generators are typically induction generators. They don't contribute much of harmonics, but there are some windmills, wind generators which use converters, which should have a fronted filters should be there. Otherwise, it cannot be limited. But in the loads, it has already been practiced. Both active filter and passive filters are utilized in the industry level. So, in my experience, passive filters give a good result and long-lasting one in the industry. Sir, do we have any advanced metering infrastructure to monitor PQ events in our state? No. but they are planning to have it. As per the new Central Electric Authority regulations, every substation should be monitored with advanced metering infrastructure to monitor PQ events. That has not happened in any state in India, but in Tamil Nadu, they are planning to have one. What is the maximum power generation from solar in Tamil Nadu? Anywhere between 2000 to 2500 megawatts. Then how to eliminate third harmonics? That's you can use the filters, passive or active filters. Yeah, that is the questions in the chat box. Any questions you can ask me.
Question asked by Tulasi Ram sir. Please provide more insight on the grid-connected energy storage technology.
That itself is a separate workshop, and people are planning to have three types of energy storage systems. One at the generator level, another at the grid level, finally one at the consumer level. But for the Indian scenario, the grid operators thought that grid level storage could be a good option, but still it is yet to be decided. But one Central Electric Authority report says that a pilot 20 megawatt storage is planned for installation in Tamil Nadu in near future, but that is yet to take shape. But one such 1 megawatt energy storage system is available in Pondicherry in power grid substation that has been used for on a frequency base. Any change in frequency, and if the frequency goes up, it will charge. When the frequency goes down, it will release. But that kind of controls can be easily changed, and according to the grid requirement, it can be done. But people are working on the energy storage technology, and it has to take a good shape in India, especially in India. How do power factor correction at output of normally people go for switched capacitors. Nowadays, people go for thyristor switched or IGBT switched capacitors also for power factor corrections. Any more questions? We have 5 more minutes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Ma'am, tell me, ma'am. Ma'am, tell me, ma'am.
Ma'am,
tell me,
has
ma'am.
completed.
Yes.
Can we wind up this session now? I
yes,
give the
ma'am,
vote
yes.
of thanks for Professor Ma.
Okay, ma'am.
Sir, thank you very much for sharing your what are the topics you have covered as power quality issues, the basics of SAG, what are the causes SAG swell, and what is the impact on renewable energies, what are the issues happened in power quality issues about affect the windmill, and what are the transients caused by capacitance switching, new trends in India in harmonics IEEE standards used, and energy storage devices. Just now you are shared from CEA. You are shared so many even
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. Your voice is breaking, ma'am. Ma'am, Usharani, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Tell me, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sorry. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Participants are like asking your mail ID, sir. Can you share it?
The dear participants kindly make
You can share my mail ID, but I'll also send my presentation. You can also share that, no issue.
Okay,
I'll
sir.
send the presentation to your mail
yes.
ID. No
Yes,
issue.
sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Ma'am, tell about the
dear
afternoon
participants.
session. Ma'am, please tell about.
Dear participants, thank you very much for registering this. You attended. I need your full support. We have scheduled morning 10:30 to 12, but we are planning to conduct my actual schedule is 10:30 to 12 and 2 to 3:30, 3:30 to 5, which is available in the schedule. But due to online classes will be